So long, guys. Thanks for everything. Guess I'm in charge now. See you later. So, we glad he's gone? Oh, heck yeah, that kid was totally cramping my style. Let's go back to the bunker and party. Oh, Jack, hey, buddy, what's going on? We totally forgot to ask him to bring back Castiel. He's pretty busy. We shouldn't bother him. But it's Cass. Yeah, and he's with the big empty now. But Jack is God now, and God brought Castiel back several times. Even Jack brought him back halfway before he even got this powerful. No, we shouldn't bother him. What is wrong with you? Is something happened between you and Cass? No, we just need some space right now. We gotta take some time apart. I will say this for the episode. It was beautifully shot and had some great camera work with lots of great wide overhead establishing vistas. It really did a lot with a little to make the world feel empty to the boys. Now let's talk about everything else. I have made it no secret that what annoys me most about these particular supernatural writers is that they do not give a about continuity. Even worse, they will screw up continuity in a scene where they didn't need to. So, this episode, things are going along. They seem to be doing well. Then Lucifer comes back. Hey, remember back in season 11 when they asked Chuck about reviving a couple of archangels to help them fight the darkness? Well, okay, there it was said rebuilding them was time we don't have, so maybe that's the excuse. Sam and Dean were all alone for a few days, and during that period of time, Chuck was bringing back Lucifer. Why would the show bring him back instead of Gabriel, the trickster? Next to last episode, maybe bring back a fan favorite? Fine, whatever. So Lucifer brings a Reaper and promotes them to the new death. Oh look, the show actually using continuity here. See, this is what really sets me off. Ignoring continuity, that annoys me real bad. But if you commit to it and just go full out for an episode, fine. I can ignore the whole thing and move on. But you show up and say, hey, remember this thing? I hope you know your continuity because you're going to need it, and then violate that? Off. So, after using continuity to set up what seems to be a clever loophole, Lucifer then proceeds to kill Betty Death with a snap of his fingers. An archangel wipes out Death with a snap of his fingers. Do I even need to go over all the problems this starts opening up, starting with season 5? Never mind that she walks into the room without her scythe, so all Lucifer had to do was teleport to where it was, grab it, and then teleport in and stab her in the back. That would have taken the same amount of time as the plot hole inducing finger snap, and it certainly would have made for a more entertaining visual than the stupid book just flying across the room. I'll admit, part of me was going easy on this episode because it was great to see Jake Abel again. I can't hardly believe how much he's grown as an actor since season 4. He really brings some great screen presence, and it just further proves that he should have been the one released in season 11 and allowed to be the villain in more than one. We'll pretend you're Michael. Nothing against Mark Pellegrino's portrayal of Lucifer, but as we can see in this episode, they reduced what was once an intimidating, awe-inspiring villain to a clown. In the general, I'm disappointed that for all the chance this episode had to give Michael some character growth, they still can't be bothered with it and have him betray the boys in the end. I was actually hoping for the reveal that Michael was willingly getting himself killed to further power up Jack. At some point, I started to wonder if the writers have something against doing anything interesting with this character, or any of them. I mean, the whole bit where Chuck is just beating the boys with his bare fist, why does he keep telling them to stay down? Other than that being a writer's trope, he's admitted he's trying to kill them. If they keep getting up, that just gives him more chance to do so. He should want them to keep getting up. It either fulfills his sadistic side or it makes the story more epic. The whole line doesn't make any sense to any of Chuck's character interpretations. And if Chuck is hitting the boys with enough cosmic force to power up Jack, how are they not pulverized? I'm taking back what I said about the episode running with subtlety. Later on in the episode, Michael talks about not having fought like that in a while. When he and Lucifer just tossed around a few Dragon Ball Z style fireballs at each other before Lucy was then stabbed. That was supposed to power up Jack too, but look at it. Powerful attacks thrown by archangels, and they can't even get the furniture to move or explode. When one of those goes off near it, they can't even shake the camera a little. How are we supposed to believe any of this? So, time to talk about the elephant in the room. Time to talk about Jack. I've been sort of holding back, but now's the time. Let's go over Jack. Any character in a story has to be sold to the audience, even the main characters. It's so often why the first seasons of so many TV shows are just a little bit shaky, because the storyteller and the audience are feeling out what their relationship is, and that is represented by who the characters are. Once that relationship gets established, everything that comes into the show has to sprout from these main characters. How does this matter to them? Just look at one example in this show. Castiel. Go back and rewatch season 4. Castiel is not a character at the start of it. He is a freaking plot device. Everything about him all revolves around the main characters. In this case, Dean. We only care about him because of how he affects Dean. He brings back Dean from the dead. He sends Dean on a trip through time. He tries to get Dean's girlfriend killed. The Great Pumpkin episode is a great example. Castiel is pure plot device at the beginning of that episode, just giving Dean the plot hook he needs and then sending him off. But then, at the end of it, he shows back up and we get a little, just a tiny hint of what his character might be. Midway through the season is when Castiel starts breaking away more from purely how he relates to the main characters and more into his own, until he finally gets to graduate at the end of the season as his own man, and begins season 5 as a main character in his own right. Is it any wonder he survived for 11 years on the show after that? He's almost a textbook perfect definition of bringing in a new character. Make it about the MCs first, and then let the new person come into their own. From the beginning, the show seemed almost determined to avoid doing this with Jack whenever possible. Starting with his very conception, the main characters were only tangentially involved, if at all. Let's pretend for a moment, imagine, that in season 11, it was Michael that was released to help fight the darkness instead of Lucifer. Besides getting to see Jake Abel some more, imagine if we were to let him find a woman like Kelly Klein, or maybe her, and he is the one that fathers Jack. Now we have a connection there because Jack is, in some consideration, a blood nephew to Sam and Dean. They have some motivation to be interested and invested in this kid. How would that impact them? How would that make them feel? Or, what if there was a retcon revealing that Jack was conceived during the period Lucifer was in Sam's body, and then 6 years later he appears? What would that be like for Sam? How much does that make Jack his son? Does Sam owe him anything? What emotions, what feelings would he have? See, in both of these setups, our first questions are how they impact our main characters, their emotions, their reactions to it, which is how it should be. What does this mean for them? How does it change their world? These are the questions we should be asking if the show wants us to eventually accept Jack as a new fourth main character. This all becomes the most obvious because of this episode. The show wants to pay off the idea that the world is a better place because of Sam and Dean. The idea being that there is a new, better God in charge of everything, and he is the way he is because of our boys. But it falls flat. because we've never seen him interacting with Sam and Dean, say maybe once or twice. Go ahead, watch the montage at the close of this episode. How many bonding moments do you see between Jack and our other main characters? One. We see one shot of Dean teaching him to drive the Impala. One episode, we got seeing the boys bond with him, and it was mostly Dean. Otherwise, almost everything else shown is just a general group picture that they can't even show Jack getting hugged by the Winchesters. Where are the hugs? Hashtag where are the hugs? Why won't someone hug Jack? We can get bro hugs, but no papa hugs for what's supposed to be their son? Jack spent half of his first season with Mary in the apocalypse world, then half of his second season without a soul, so I guess there's a real question of when he would have gotten around to a hug. I think the first time he came back from death, he got one. Heck, from everything we see, Jack was pretty much born perfect. There's a real question of if Jack was promoted to God the day after he was born, would it have made any difference? Not as far as we're shown by the storytellers. And that's key. It has to be shown. You can do a little bit of telling to enforce the idea, but fundamentally you have to show it on screen to the audience. That is the problem. The main characters are the matters characters. In every story, it should be extremely clear that things would have been different had your characters not been involved. Or at least it should be that way on a long-running TV show where you're demanding your audience to remain invested in the story week after week. We should have seen on screen, in camera, the brothers making Jack into the man who would become God. Dean telling him the importance of freedom and never giving up. Sam explaining to him why they need to care about what happens to others. Almost every episode from the day he appeared should have been Jack on an adventure with one or both of the boys, with the close of that episode being whomever he is with explaining the lesson of the adventure. It should have built and built and built over the years. We should have steadily watched Jack mature and grow as a character over these last 3 years so that right here, at the end, it all comes together and pays off. And we see at the final moment, Jack is not only triumphant, but he was only able to be triumphant because it was Sam and Dean Winchester who raised him and taught him what he needed to know. Instead, not only do Sam and Dean ultimately not matter to Jack's story, Jack doesn't even matter to his own story. Through this entire episode, they could have put the kid in a coma and just wheeled him around on a dolly from one scene to another. He plays no role in this story other than as a prop. Yeah, it all works to an extent as far as storytelling logic goes, but is there no way we could have had him take a more active role in things? Even Dean and Sam managed the let's trick the villain into beating themselves way they have a tradition of doing. I said it was going to be an uphill climb to the finale. This finale, in fact. The previous episode barely pulled it up a bit, and then this one crashed back down. I can't really give this episode a 1. The cinematography and many of the visual effects were quite well done. Plus, it's hard to hate on Jake too much. So, this episode's final score is 2 out of 5. Welcome to the end of Season 15, everybody. It's pretty much what we expected.